A hospital room, a pregnant woman on bed rest. Doctors have warned her that any stress could kill her unborn baby. And then the door locks. Her husband's mistress walks in carrying a black leather belt. What happens next will make your blood run cold. But here is what the mistress did not know.
He never loved you.
Here is what nobody
Please,
expected.
Jonathan, don't do this.
The pregnant wife was not just a victim.
It's
She
over,
was setting
Madeline.
a trap. This story contains 3 moments that will shock you. A betrayal so cold it will make you question everything you believe about marriage. A father's revenge that
This
crosses
footage
lines
confirms
you never
everything,
thought possible.
Victoria. It's over.
And a twist in the final act that no one, and I mean
You're under
no
arrest,
one,
Miss
saw
Crane.
coming. If you have ever been silenced, if you have ever been told your pain was not real, if you have ever wondered what it takes to fight back when the whole world is against you, this story is for you. Stay with me until the end. I promise you will not regret it. Let us begin. A hospital room. White walls stretching in every direction like an endless void. Sterile air that smelled of antiseptic and fear. The soft beeping of a fetal monitor marking time like a fragile heartbeat. Each sound a reminder that 2 lives hung in the balance. A pregnant woman lies motionless on the narrow bed, her body angled slightly to the left as her doctors had instructed. 7 months along. Ordered not to move. One wrong shift, one spike in stress, one moment of panic, and she could lose everything she had fought so hard to protect. The door opens slowly, the hinges barely whispering. A woman in a red dress walks in. Not just any red, but the deep crimson of dried blood, of warnings unheeded, of danger approaching. Blonde hair perfect, not a single strand out of place. Makeup flawless, as if she had spent hours preparing for this moment. Designer heels clicking against the linoleum floor like a countdown to something terrible. She closes the door behind her with deliberate care. The lock engages with a soft click that echoes through the room like a gunshot. From her designer handbag, she pulls out a black leather belt. The buckle catches the harsh fluorescent light and glints like a predator's eye in the darkness. The pregnant wife cannot run. Her body is a prison, her baby the hostage that keeps her compliant. She cannot fight. Any sudden movement could trigger the contractions her doctors have been desperately trying to prevent. She cannot even scream without risking her child's life. Because stress is the enemy now. Stress is the killer waiting in the shadows. The first strike lands across her forearm like fire from heaven. Then another. But here is what no one expected. The pregnant wife is not crying. Through the pain that radiates through her body like lightning, through the terror that grips her heart like an iron fist, she is smiling. A small smile, barely visible, but unmistakably present. Because hidden beneath her hospital gown, pressed against her racing heart, is a recording device. And the woman beating her has no idea that every word, every threat, every sound of leather striking flesh is being captured, preserved, transformed into evidence that will ultimately destroy her. My name is Madeline Harper. 3 days ago, I was a victim, a helpless woman trapped in a nightmare I could not escape. Today I am the trap. Today the hunter becomes the hunted. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you about the betrayal that shattered my world, the violence that nearly broke me, and the strength I found in the darkness. Let me tell you about the moment I stopped waiting for someone to save me and became the person who saved herself. Rewind to 1 week earlier. I met Jonathan Harper at a charity gala 4 years ago. It was one of those glittering events where the wealthy gather to congratulate themselves on their generosity while sipping champagne that costs more than some people earn in a month. I was there representing my company, a marketing executive still climbing the ladder, still proving myself in a world that did not always welcome women at the top. Jonathan stood across the room and I noticed him immediately. He was handsome in that effortless way some men are blessed with, the kind of handsome that makes you forget to be cautious, that makes you lower the walls you have spent years building. Dark hair that fell perfectly across his forehead, a strong jaw that spoke of determination and strength, eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, making him look younger than his 34 years. He worked in real estate development, building luxury condominiums that touched the sky, transforming neighborhoods, creating homes for people who could afford dreams most of us only imagine. When he talked about his work, his eyes lit up with genuine passion. I found that attractive. I found him attractive. I was 32 years old, successful in my own right, proud of what I had built from nothing. My father raised me alone after my mother abandoned us when I was 6 years old. One morning she was there making breakfast, humming a song I cannot remember anymore. By nightfall she was gone, leaving nothing but a note that said she needed to find herself, as if finding herself required losing us. My father never remarried. He poured everything he had into raising me, teaching me to be strong, to be independent, to never let anyone steal my voice. He was a colonel in the army, retired now, running his own private security firm. He taught me that strength was not about never falling. It was about getting up every single time you were knocked down. But Jonathan made me want to be soft. For the first time in my life, I wanted to let down my guard, to trust someone completely, to believe in the fairy tale I had always dismissed as childish nonsense. He brought me flowers for no reason, showing up at my office with bouquets that made my coworkers whisper and smile. He remembered the little things, like how I took my coffee with exactly 2 sugars and a splash of cream, like which songs made me cry, like the fact that I secretly hated my middle name. When he proposed after 18 months of dating, getting down on one knee in the restaurant where we had our first date, I said yes, without hesitation. For 3 years, our marriage was everything I had hoped it would be, and more. We bought a house in the suburbs, a beautiful colonial with a wraparound porch and a backyard big enough for the children we planned to have. We talked about the future constantly, painting pictures of the life we would build together. I felt safe for the first time since my mother left. I felt loved. Then I got pregnant and everything changed. At first the changes were small, so subtle I could almost convince myself I was imagining them. Jonathan worked later, often not coming home until after midnight, his explanations vague and unsatisfying. He seemed distracted during dinner, checking his phone constantly, his mind clearly somewhere else. His phone was always face down on the table now, the password changed without explanation or apology. He stopped reaching for me in bed. The man who used to pull me close every night, who used to whisper that he loved me as we fell asleep, now turned away, creating a distance between us that felt wider than the few inches of mattress. I told myself it was stress. The business was expanding rapidly, requiring more of his time and attention. He had a new partner handling the finances, a woman named Victoria Crane. I had met her once at a company event, tall and blonde and polished in a way that made me feel underdressed in my own skin. She had shaken my hand with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes and told me how lucky Jonathan was to have such a supportive wife. I did not think much of it at the time. That was my first mistake, the first of many. By my 7th month of pregnancy, Jonathan and I barely spoke. Our conversations had become transactions, exchanges of necessary information stripped of warmth or affection. He suggested separate bedrooms for my comfort during pregnancy, and when I protested, when I said I needed him close, he looked at me with something that might have been irritation or might have been contempt. He stopped attending doctor appointments. The man who had cried when we first heard our baby's heartbeat, who had held my hand so tightly during every ultrasound, now claimed he was too busy, that work could not wait, that I could handle it on my own. Maybe you know what that feels like. Maybe you have been in a relationship where you can feel something shifting beneath your feet, like standing on ice that is slowly cracking. But every time you try to name it, every time you try to address the growing chasm, you are told you are imagining things. That quiet voice in your gut screaming that something is wrong, that danger is approaching, while everyone around you, including the person who promised to love you forever, insists everything is fine. Trust that voice. Please, if you take nothing else from my story, take this. I trust that voice. I wish I had trusted mine sooner. I wish I had listened to the whispers of intuition before they became screams of warning. My best friend Diane Mitchell saw it before I did. Diane and I had been close since our freshman year of college, bonding over late-night study sessions in terrible cafeteria food. She had become an obstetrician, dedicating her life to bringing new lives into the world. And when I got pregnant, she insisted on being my doctor. I trusted her with my life, with my baby's life. Over lunch one afternoon in a quiet corner of a restaurant we had been visiting together for over a decade, she finally said what I had been afraid to admit. "Maddie, something is wrong." She set down her fork and looked at me with eyes full of concern and love. "You look exhausted, and not just pregnancy exhausted. I have seen enough pregnant women to know the difference. This is something else." Talk to me. I hesitated, my hands wrapped around a glass of water I had not taken a single sip from. The words felt too heavy to say out loud, as if speaking them would make them real in a way I was not ready to accept. I think Jonathan is having an affair. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Diane did not look surprised. Have you confronted him? I shook my head slowly. I do not have proof, just a feeling, just this constant sense that something is terribly wrong. Trust your gut, Diane said firmly, reaching across the table to take my hand. When something feels wrong in your relationship, it usually is. Your instincts are not paranoia. They are pattern recognition. Your brain is putting together pieces that your conscious mind has not assembled yet. Start documenting dates, times, specific behaviors. If it turns out to be nothing, you have lost nothing but a little time. But if it turns out to be something, you will be prepared. That night, after Jonathan fell asleep in the guest bedroom he had claimed as his own, I started paying closer attention. I watched. I waited. I documented. Within 48 hours, I found the proof I was looking for. It was a receipt in Jonathan's jacket pocket, crumpled and forgotten. Evidence of carelessness or perhaps arrogance. Not for jewelry that might have suggested a surprise for me. Not for flowers that might have rekindled hope. For a 2-bedroom apartment lease across town in a luxury high-rise, signed 3 months earlier. The second bedroom was labeled nursery. My hands shook as I stared at those words, reading them over and over as if repetition might change their meaning. He was not just having an affair. He was not just seeking comfort in another woman's arms while his pregnant wife waited at home. He was building another life. A complete replacement, a future that did not include me. I photographed the receipt with trembling fingers and put it back in his pocket exactly as I had found it. I needed to think. I needed a plan. I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I made my next move. But I never got the chance to make one. The next morning, I confronted him. I should have waited. I should have gathered more evidence, consulted a lawyer, called my father and asked for guidance. But the betrayal was burning a hole in my chest, and I could not hold it in any longer. The words demanded to be spoken. I found the lease, Jonathan. The apartment. The nursery. He was sitting at the kitchen table drinking his morning coffee, scrolling through his phone. He did not even look up at first, as if my words were no more important than the notifications he was dismissing. Then he set down his phone, set down his coffee cup, and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Cold, clinical, calculating, like I was a problem to be solved rather than a wife to be loved. So you have been going through my things, that is your response? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I am 7 months pregnant with your child, and you are setting up house with another woman? Victoria understands me. She does not complain constantly. She does not nag. She does not cry over every little thing. And honestly, Madeline, he paused, and when he continued, his voice dripped with contempt. You have let yourself go since the pregnancy. You used to be someone I was proud to stand next to. Now you are just another obligation. The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing harder than the last. I am carrying your child, I whispered, my hand instinctively moving to my swollen belly. Are you? His eyes narrowed. Victoria mentioned something interesting. She said you were awfully friendly with that marketing consultant last year. David something, late nights at the office, private dinners. Ring any bells? I never cheated on you. The accusation was so absurd, so completely divorced from reality, that I almost laughed. I have never even thought about it. Save it. I do not even care anymore. He stood up, towering over me. This marriage was a mistake. I want out. That is when it happened. A sharp pain ripped through my abdomen like someone had reached inside me and twisted. My vision blurred. My legs buckled. I grabbed the edge of the counter to keep from falling. Jonathan watched me collapse without moving to help. His expression did not change. His body did not shift toward me. You are being dramatic, he said flatly. As usual. I managed to call 911 myself, my fingers barely able to find the right numbers on the screen. By the time the ambulance arrived, I was barely conscious, curled on the kitchen floor, while Jonathan stood at the window looking out at the street. The last thing I remember before everything went dark was the paramedic's voice, urgent and concerned. Ma Am, you are having contractions. We need to get you to the hospital now. Your baby is in danger. I woke up in a hospital bed with wires attached to my chest and monitors beeping beside me. The room was dim, the blinds drawn against the outside world. For a moment, I did not remember where I was or how I had gotten there. Then it all came flooding back. Jonathan. The apartment, the accusations, the pain. I reached for my belly in panic, terrified that the worst had happened while I was unconscious. But the monitor beside me was beeping steadily, a mechanical heartbeat tracking my baby's survival. She was still there, still fighting, just like her mother. Diane Mitchell stood at the foot of my bed, her face tight with concern. She was still in her scrubs, as if she had rushed here directly from another patient. When she saw my eyes open, she moved closer immediately. Maddie, thank God, you scared me half to death. What happened? My voice came out as a croak, my throat dry and painful. The baby? The baby is stable, Diane said carefully, choosing her words with the precision of someone who has delivered bad news too many times. But we had a close call, a very close call. You experienced threatened preterm labor caused by acute psychological stress. I closed my eyes as the memory of Jonathan's cold face flooded my mind. The way he had watched me collapse without reaching out. The way he had accused me of infidelity while carrying his child. What does that mean, I asked, forcing myself to focus on the present, on what I could control. It means your body went into early labor because of extreme stress. The contractions were real, Maddie. They were strong. We managed to stop them with medication, but your cervix is showing changes. Effacement, early dilation. If this continues, if you experience another episode like this, you could deliver at 7 months. And at this stage, the risks are significant. Underdeveloped lungs, brain bleeds, long-term developmental issues. We are talking about a baby fighting for survival in a NICU for months. The words washed over me like ice water. What do I do? Complete bed rest. No getting up except to use the bathroom. No stress. No emotional agitation of any kind. Your body is telling you it has reached its limit. The stress hormones coursing through your system are triggering labor contractions. We need to keep that baby inside for at least 6 more weeks, ideally 8. Every day we buy gives her better odds. The irony was not lost on me. The thing that could kill my baby was stress, and my husband had just become my biggest source of it. Diane squeezed my hand, her touch warm and reassuring. I know about Jonathan, she said quietly. I saw him in the lobby when they brought you in. He was on his phone arguing with someone about a meeting he was missing. He did not even come upstairs. No, he did not. Her jaw tightened with barely suppressed anger. Maddie, what is going on? Really going on? I told her everything. The distant behavior, the changed passwords, the separate bedrooms, the lease for the apartment, Victoria Crane, the accusations of infidelity. By the time I finished, I was crying, tears streaming down my face despite my best efforts to hold them back. Diane listened without interrupting. When I finally fell silent, she did not offer empty platitudes or false reassurances. She said something practical, something useful. You need to call your father. My father, Walter Harper, the man who had raised me alone, who had taught me everything I knew about strength and survival. I had not wanted to burden him with my failing marriage. I had not wanted to admit that I had chosen wrong, that my judgment had failed me so completely. But Diane was right. If anyone could help me navigate this nightmare, it was him. After she left to check on other patients, promising to return within the hour, I picked up my phone and dialed his number. My father answered on the second ring. Maddie, his voice was warm but alert. My father always knew when something was wrong. It was like he could sense it across any distance. What is it? Dad, I need help. I told him everything, the words pouring out in a flood I could not stop. The affair, the apartment, Jonathan's accusations about David, the consultant I had barely spoken to beyond professional necessity, the collapse, the hospital, the diagnosis. By the time I finished, I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. My father listened without interrupting, just like Diane had. When I finally fell silent, his voice was calm, too calm. The voice he used when I was a child, and monsters seemed to lurk in every shadow, when he needed to reassure me that he would keep me safe. Are you safe right now? I am in the hospital. But Dad, I do not know what to do. He is going to take everything. He is going to say I am crazy, that I am unstable, that I am unfit to be a mother. Victoria has him convinced the baby is not even his. He is going to use this hospitalization against me. I can feel it. Stop. Breathe. Listen to me carefully. I force myself to inhale slowly, grounding myself in his steadiness, drawing strength from his voice the way I had done so many times as a child. Do nothing, my father said. Say nothing. Do not confront Jonathan again. Do not engage with Victoria. Do not sign anything, no matter what they put in front of you. Do not agree to anything, no matter how reasonable it sounds. Just rest and protect that baby. But he is going to, trust me, sweetheart. I am already moving. I am making calls as we speak. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late for them to protect themselves. What are you going to do? What I always do, Madeline. Protect my daughter. Protect my granddaughter. Before he hung up, he said something that would become my mantra over the following days, words I would repeat to myself in the darkest moments. Here is something I learned in the Army. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Do not make excuses. Do not explain away their behavior. Do not tell yourself they did not mean it. Believe them. But here is the key. Do not react. Respond. Reaction is emotional, and emotion makes you predictable. Response is strategic, calculated, controlled. Right now, you gather intelligence, you observe, you document, you become invisible. Let them think they have already won. Overconfident people make mistakes. Arrogant people get careless. We are going to let Jonathan and this Victoria make all the mistakes they want, and then we are going to make them pay for every single one. For 2 days, I followed his advice to the letter. I lay in my hospital bed, monitoring my contractions, protecting my baby. I did not call Jonathan. I did not text him. I did not respond when he sent a brief message saying he would visit when his schedule allowed. Jonathan visited once during those 2 days. Briefly, he stood at the foot of my bed like a stranger at a bus stop, checking his watch repeatedly, his body angled toward the door as if he could not wait to escape. The doctors say you need to stay calm, he said, not meeting my eyes. So let us keep things civil. No more accusations. No more drama. Civil, you accuse me of cheating. You abandoned me while I was collapsing on our kitchen floor. See? His jaw tightened with irritation. This is what I mean. Always escalating. Always creating drama. Victoria was right about you. She said you would play the victim. She said you would try to manipulate me with guilt. Victoria. The name tasted like poison on my tongue. What exactly has Victoria told you about me? Enough, more than enough. Things that explain a lot about our marriage. He left after 10 minutes. He did not touch me. He did not ask about the baby. He did not say he loved me, or that he was worried, or that he hoped I would be okay. I watched him go and felt something shift inside me. Not sadness, though that was there too, buried beneath the surface. Not even anger, though that was building, a slow flame that would eventually become a fire. Just a cold, clear recognition that the man I had married was gone, replaced by a stranger I did not recognize. A stranger who looked at me with contempt instead of love. 1 hour later, the stranger sent his mistress to finish what he had started. The door to my hospital room opened slowly, and I expected to see a nurse coming to check my vitals or adjust my IV. Instead, Victoria Crane walked in. She was stunning in the way that expensive maintenance creates. The kind of beauty that requires hours in salons and thousands of dollars in products. Designer red dress that clung to her figure like it had been custom made, which it probably had been. Blonde hair perfectly styled, not a single strand out of place. Makeup flawless, her face a mask of artificial perfection. Her heels clicked against the hospital floor as she approached my bed, each step deliberate, predatory. She moved like a woman who owned every room she entered. She closed the door behind her with a soft click. I heard the lock engage. My heart began to pound. So, she said, her voice light and musical and utterly cold. This is where you ended up. Lying down, helpless. Finally where you belong. Get out, Victoria laughed softly, the sound somehow more threatening than any shout. I do not think so. See, Jonathan and I had a long talk this morning, a very productive talk. He has finally seen clearly. He understands now that you have been manipulating him for years, using your pregnancy as a weapon, trying to trap him in a marriage he never wanted. That is insane, is it? She walks slowly around my bed, examining the monitors, the IV line, the call button mounted on the rail. Her eyes missed nothing. The doctors told you to stay calm, did they not? Because stress could hurt the baby. How terribly convenient. How fragile you have become. I reached for the call button, but Victoria noticed. She moved faster than I expected, her hand closing around my wrist with surprising strength. "Do not bother," she said quietly. I spoke to the nurse on my way in, told her I was your sister, that I wanted some private time to support you through this difficult period. She will not disturb us for at least 20 minutes. What do you want? Victoria released my wrist and stepped back, smoothing her dress as if nothing had happened. I want you to understand your position, Madeline. I want to make sure we are perfectly clear about how this is going to work. She reached into her designer handbag, and my breath caught in my throat. She pulled out a black leather belt. Expensive. Italian. The buckle caught the light and glinted. "This baby," Victoria said, her voice dropping to something almost intimate. "Jonathan does not want it. He never did, if we are being honest. He wanted the idea of a family, the image of a happy wife and perfect children. But the reality, the morning sickness, and the mood swings, and the body changes, he finds it repulsive. He told me so." "You are lying." "Am I? Then why is he in my bed every night instead of yours? Why does he light up when he sees me and look at you like you are a burden he cannot wait to shed?" She let the belt hang from her fingers, the leather swaying gently. "This marriage of yours? Dead. Your future as Mrs. Jonathan Harper? Gone. Everything you thought you had? Mine now. You are just paperwork, Madeline, an obstacle, a minor inconvenience. And I am very good at removing obstacles. Please," I hated the pleading in my voice, but I could not stop it. "I am 7 months pregnant. Please do not do this." Victoria smiled. The smile did not reach her eyes. The first strike landed across my forearm like fire from heaven. I cried out, then bit down on the sound, terrified that screaming would make my contractions worse. The fetal monitor beside me spiked wildly, the steady beeping becoming erratic and alarmed. Victoria struck again and again. Arms, shoulders, places that could be hidden under blankets and hospital gowns. She was careful, precise, targeting areas that would not show easily, that could be explained away or dismissed. Each blow sent waves of pain radiating through my body. I wanted to curl into myself, to protect my baby, but I could not move. Any sudden motion could trigger labor. I could not scream. The stress alone could hurt my child. I was trapped in my own body, completely helpless, at the mercy of a woman who had none. I could feel my baby moving inside me, responding to my fear, to the adrenaline flooding my system. "Stay calm," I told her silently. "Stay safe. Mommy will figure this out." When Victoria finally stopped, she was not even breathing hard. She smoothed the blanket carefully, adjusting my gown to hide the marks she had left behind. Her movements were practiced, efficient, as if she had done this before. "If you tell anyone," she whispered, leaning close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume, "I will say you fell, or that you did it to yourself for attention. Pregnant women are so emotional, are they not? So unstable, so desperate for sympathy. Who do you think they will believe? The hysterical patient with a history of stress-induced complications? Or the concerned visitor who only wanted to help?" She unlocked the door and paused, turning back with a cold smile. "Remember this feeling, Madeline. This is your life now. This is what you have to look forward to, unless you sign the divorce papers Jonathan's lawyer is preparing. Walk away quietly, take whatever settlement we offer, and maybe I will let you disappear in peace. Fight me, and I will make sure you lose everything, including that baby." She left. I lay there for a long moment, shaking, my arms burning, tears streaming down my face. The monitor beeped erratically beside me, recording every spike of stress, every flutter of my baby's heartbeat. Then slowly, with trembling fingers, I reached under my pillow. My phone was still there, still recording. My father had told me to document everything. Trust no one, he had said. Assume every conversation might be important. So when Victoria locked the door, When I saw her reaching into her bag, I had pressed record. Every threat, every strike, every word she said was captured. I had proof. I called my father immediately, hope surging through my chest despite the pain. I got it, Dad. I recorded everything. Her voice, her threats, the assault. We have her. Good girl. His voice was tight with controlled anger. Now we need to be careful about how we... No, I cut him off, my voice stronger than I expected. I am done waiting. I am done being careful. I am calling the police right now. Maddie, wait. We need to be strategic about this. We need to think about... But I had already hung up. I was done being strategic. I was done being patient. I had proof. Real proof. A recording of my husband's mistress beating me in a hospital bed while I was pregnant with his child. No one could dismiss that. No one could explain that away. No one could tell me I was imagining things. I called 911 with shaking hands. 2 hours later, Detective Carol Hayes arrived. She was in her 50s, gray-streaked hair pulled back severely, eyes that had seen everything the world had to offer and believed almost none of it. She walked into my room with the weariness of someone who had investigated too many cases that went nowhere. She listened to my recording. Her expression did not change. Not when Victoria's voice filled the room, threatening and cruel. Not when the sounds of the belt striking flesh could be heard clearly. Not when my own cries of pain punctuated the recording. Mrs. Harper, she said when it ended, I hear sounds of impact and a woman's voice making threats, but there is no visual confirmation of what is happening. I cannot see that the sounds are connected to the voice. I cannot verify who is in the room. She beat me with a belt. Look at my arms. I pushed up my sleeves, revealing the red welts already darkening to bruises. The marks were clear, unmistakable, angry stripes across my forearms and upper arms. The detective examined them with a clinical eye. These marks could be from the IV insertion. Some of them are in areas where medical equipment touches. They could also be self-inflicted. They are in areas you could reach yourself. I am on bed rest. I stared at her in disbelief. I can barely move. How could I have done this to myself? Detective Hayes sighed, the sound heavy with something that might have been sympathy or might have been resignation. Mrs. Harper, I have been doing this job for 23 years. You would not believe how often we get calls like this. Pregnant women, hormones out of control, stressed about their marriages, dealing with the physical and emotional toll of carrying a child. Sometimes they exaggerate. Sometimes they hurt themselves for attention or sympathy. Sometimes they make accusations against people they are angry with, people who have wronged them in other ways. You do not believe me. I believe something happened. I believe you are in distress. But this recording is not enough for an arrest. It is not even enough for a restraining order without corroborating evidence. I am sorry, I genuinely am. But my hands are tied. She left her card on the table beside my bed and walked out. I watched her go, feeling hope drain out of me like water through a cracked vessel. I had done everything right. I had gathered evidence. I had reported the crime immediately. I had shown my injuries. And no one believed me. That night, I lay in the darkness, my arms throbbing, my heart broken, and realized something that would change everything. The system was not going to save me. The police were not going to swoop in and arrest Victoria. The courts were not going to protect me from Jonathan. No one was coming to rescue me. If I wanted to survive this, if I wanted my daughter to survive this, I would have to save myself. The next morning brought fresh horrors. Jonathan arrived mid-morning, carrying a manila folder that looked thick with documents. He did not ask how I was feeling. He did not ask about the baby. He walked into my room like a man on a mission and dropped the folder on my bed without ceremony. The lawyer finished the paperwork. Sign these. I opened the folder with trembling hands, my injured arms aching with every movement. Divorce papers, page after page of legal language, of provisions and clauses and conditions. Then I stopped. This says I waive all custody rights. Given your mental state, Jonathan said, his voice utterly calm, as if we were discussing the weather, it is the responsible choice. The judge will look at your hospitalization, your stress-induced complications, your history of emotional instability, and conclude that you are not fit to raise a child. Mental state, I am not mentally ill. I am pregnant and stressed because my husband is having an affair. The hospital records say otherwise. Admitted for stress-induced preterm labor, emotional instability, failure to regulate psychological responses. And now I hear you call the police with some wild story about being attacked by Victoria? He shook his head with exaggerated disappointment. That will certainly help your case. My blood went cold. How do you know about that? I demanded. That just happened yesterday. Jonathan smiled, cold and satisfied. Victoria has connections everywhere, Madeline. Her cousin works dispatch at the police department. We know every move you make before you make it. The detective who came to see you, she is going to file a report noting your questionable mental state and possible self-harm tendencies. She is going to recommend a psychiatric evaluation. That goes in your permanent record. And when we go to court, when we stand before a judge and ask for custody of our child, you are setting me up. I am protecting my child from an unstable mother. He pulled another document from the folder, sliding it across my bed with a satisfied smirk. Do you remember signing our prenuptial agreement? I stared at him. We never had a prenup. You said we did not need one. You said you loved me too much to even consider the possibility that we might not last forever. Funny, because here it is. He held up the document. My name was on the first page. My signature was on the last, along with 2 witness signatures and a notary seal. According to this document, he continued, in the event of divorce, you receive nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, no share of any assets acquired during the marriage. And if you are deemed mentally unfit by a medical professional, which given your current hospitalization should not be difficult to establish, you forfeit all parental rights automatically. I stared at the signature. It looked exactly like mine. Every curve, every flourish, every tiny quirk of my handwriting was perfectly reproduced. But I had never signed this document. I had never even seen it before. That is forged. I never signed that. Good luck proving it. The notary will testify you did. The witnesses will testify you did. They will describe the coffee shop where we all met, the date, the conversation we had about how this was just a precaution, just in case. Your word against 3 upstanding citizens with no reason to lie. He leaned closer, and I saw something in his eyes I had never noticed before, a cruelty that had always been there, hiding beneath the charm, waiting for its moment to emerge. Sign the papers voluntarily and walk away with your dignity intact. Take the settlement we are offering and start over somewhere else. Or fight me, Madeline, and I will have you committed for psychiatric evaluation. Victoria knows a doctor who owes her a favor, a psychiatrist who will testify that your delusions and paranoia make you a danger to yourself and others. Once you are committed, even temporarily, even for 72 hours, the custody case is over. He tapped the folder. Your choice. You have until tomorrow morning. Then he left. I sat in stunned silence, the weight of the trap pressing down on me. They had built a cage around me, bar by bar, document by document, lie by lie. Legal threats, medical records, forged documents, corrupt connections at the police department and in the psychiatric community. Every exit was blocked. Every ally was compromised. Every path forward led to destruction. I was completely alone. That evening, my nurse Emily Ross came in for her rounds. She was older, in her 50s, with kind eyes and the confident movements of someone who had spent 15 years reading patients, understanding their fears even when they could not express them. She found me staring at the wall, the folder still unopened beside me. Rough day? She asked softly. You could say that. She checked my vitals in silence for a moment, her hands gentle and competent. My blood pressure was elevated. My heart rate was too fast. The numbers told the story of a woman barely holding herself together. Then she sat on the edge of my bed and spoke quietly. I'm going to say something I probably should not say, something that could get me in trouble if the wrong person heard it. But I have worked this ward for 15 years, and I have seen women in your situation before. Women who had no one to tell them what I am about to tell you. What? Whatever they are asking you to sign, do not. Not under pressure, not in this hospital room, not without your own lawyer present, someone who works for you and only you. Not when you are lying in bed scared out of your mind and worried about your baby. Any document signed under duress can be challenged later in court. But it is much harder to unsign something than to never sign it in the first place. The police do not believe me. I heard my voice crack. No one believes me. I have proof, and it does not matter. Then you build your own case. Her voice was firm, urgent. You do not wait for the system to save you. You save yourself. Take photos of any injuries with a timestamp. Write down exactly what happened with dates and times and every detail you can remember. Make copies of everything and store them somewhere they cannot access, a friend's house, a cloud account they do not know about. Record conversations if your state allows it. She leaned closer, her eyes intense. The system fails women every day, Mrs. Harper. I have watched it happen more times than I can count. Women with proof, women with witnesses, women with injuries that no one could explain away. And still the system fails them. So you have to build your own evidence file. You have to be your own first responder. You have to fight even when no one is fighting with you. She squeezed my hand and left. I lay awake all night, her words echoing in my mind. The system fails women every day. You have to be your own first responder. If that was true, then I needed to stop waiting for someone to save me. I needed to stop hoping the police would do their job or the courts would see the truth. I needed to become the person who saved herself. The next afternoon, Victoria came back. This time, she was not alone. Jonathan was with her. He closed the door and leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching. He did not speak. He did not need to. His presence said everything. This is sanctioned. This is approved. This is what happens to women who do not comply. I heard you called the police, Victoria said, her voice light and conversational, as if we were discussing dinner plans. That was incredibly stupid, Madeline. I thought you were smarter than that. They have a recording of you assaulting me. Do they? Because according to my cousin at dispatch, that recording was corrupted during transfer to the evidence server. Technical glitch. These things happen. Something about the file format being incompatible with their system. Very unfortunate. My stomach dropped. Another exit. Closed. I told you what would happen if you talked. Victoria's voice hardened. Now I have to remind you. She pulled out the belt. I looked at Jonathan desperately. Jonathan, please. Whatever she has told you, it is not true. I never cheated on you. Not once in 4 years of marriage. The baby is yours. The day will prove it. Please do not let her do this to me. Please do not let her hurt our child. His expression did not change. If anything, it grew colder. Victoria helped me see the truth about you, Madeline. You have been lying to me for years, manipulating me, trapping me. This baby is probably not even mine. It is probably that consultant's, David, the one you were always so friendly with. That is insane. I never even had a private conversation with David. Victoria raised the belt and brought it down across my arm. I cried out as pain exploded through me. Fresh agony layered on top of yesterday's bruises. The fetal monitor screamed, wild spikes and plunges that made the machine emit warning tones. The beating was worse this time. Victoria aimed for the same spots, layering pain on pain, ensuring that each blow landed exactly where it would hurt the most. The monitor continued its frantic beeping. My baby's heart rate was fluctuating wildly. Jonathan watched from the wall. His face showed nothing, not concern, not guilt, not even satisfaction. Just blank, empty indifference. You are going to kill our baby, I sobbed, clutching my stomach. I told you, Jonathan said flatly. It is not mine. When Victoria finally stopped, she smoothed the blankets and adjusted my gown, hiding the marks with practiced ease. The divorce papers, she said softly. You have until tomorrow morning. Sign them, take the settlement, walk away quietly. Or next time I will not be so careful about where I aim. Maybe I will focus on the stomach instead of the arms. Maybe I will see how much stress it takes to trigger labor. It would be a tragedy, of course. A terrible, unavoidable miscarriage caused by the unstable mother's inability to control her emotions. They left. The nurse rushed in moments later, responding to the monitor alarms. I was barely conscious, my body trembling violently, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. Mrs. Harper, what happened? I tried to answer, but the words would not come. Darkness closed in from the edges of my vision. The last thing I heard was Emily calling for a doctor, her voice sharp with alarm. Then everything went black. I woke to find Diane sitting beside my bed, her face pale with exhaustion and worry. "The baby is stable," she said before I could ask. Barely. Her heart rate dropped dangerously low for several minutes. We almost had to do an emergency cesarean. Another episode like that, another spike in your stress hormones, and we are looking at delivery whether we are ready or not. I closed my eyes, tears leaking from beneath my lids. "I need to tell you something," I whispered, "about Jonathan, about what is happening." "I know," Diane said gently. "Your father called me. He told me everything." Relief and fear warred in my chest. Diane was my friend, but she was also a doctor at this hospital. What if Victoria had gotten to her too? What if this was another trap? "There is something else," Diane continued. "Something I found out after your father called. About Victoria Crane." She pulled up records on her tablet. 6 years ago, she was involved with another married man in Chicago. His name was Richard Whitmore, real estate developer, just like Jonathan. His wife was pregnant too, 26 weeks along. What happened? The wife had a stress-induced miscarriage. Lost the baby in her third trimester. She had a complete mental breakdown afterward. Was hospitalized for 6 months. Richard divorced her while she was in the psychiatric facility, citing her instability. 3 months later, his business collapsed. Embezzlement, $2 million missing. He went to prison for fraud, maintaining his innocence the entire time. Victoria disappeared and was never charged. The room seemed to tilt around me. She has done this before, at least twice that I have found evidence of. There might be more. Jonathan is not her lover, Maddie. He is her mark, and you are not her rival. You are collateral damage. She does not hate you. She barely thinks about you at all. You are just an obstacle between her and Jonathan's money. Diane reached for my hand. Your father is on his way. He has been making calls all day. He has a plan. We have a plan, but you need to stay calm. You need to stay strong. Your daughter needs you to survive this. That night, my father arrived with a man named Marcus Webb, broad-shouldered in his 50s, with the unmistakable posture of a career military man. He walked into my room and assessed every corner, every window, every potential entry point, with the practiced eye of someone who had done this thousands of times. "Marcus is the head of security at this hospital," my father said. "He served under me 20 years ago. He is one of the few people I trust completely." "Colonel," Marcus said, nodding to my father. I have reviewed the situation. Here is what we are going to do." They outlined the plan in quiet, efficient voices. Hidden cameras would be installed in my room, disguised as normal hospital equipment. The feeds would be linked to a secure cloud server that Victoria could not access, that no one at this hospital could tamper with. Multiple redundancies, multiple backups. Even if someone found one camera, there would be others. Marcus would personally review all visitor logs and cross-reference them with the security footage. A female security officer would be stationed nearby around the clock, someone Marcus trusted completely. Diane would ensure all medical records were preserved and backed up to an off-site location. "Tomorrow when they come back," my father said, "and they will come back because overconfident people always do, we will have everything we need. Clear footage, multiple angles, audio backup, time-stamped and authenticated in a way that no one can question." For the first time in days, I felt hope. "Thank you," I whispered. "All of you. I do not know how to." "You do not need to thank us," Marcus said firmly. "We take care of our own." "Get some sleep, sweetheart," my father said, squeezing my hand. "Tomorrow this ends." That night, I slept deeply for the first time since entering the hospital. I dreamed of holding my daughter, of walking through a garden with her, of showing her a world that was safe and good and full of light. I woke at 3:17 in the morning to chaos. Red and blue lights flashed through my window, painting the walls in alternating colors. Voices shouted in the hallway. Running footsteps echoed from every direction. My door burst open and police officers rushed in, followed by Victoria Crane. She was crying, makeup smeared down her cheeks, hair disheveled, looking terrified, looking like a victim, looking like everything she was not. "Officers, this is her," Victoria sobbed, pointing at me. "This is the woman he was attacking." More officers appeared in the doorway, leading a handcuffed Jonathan Harper through the corridor. He looked stunned, confused, his expensive suit jacket torn. "This is insane," Jonathan shouted. "I did not do anything. I was not even here. I was at the office when she called me." Victoria continued sobbing loudly. "I came to check on her because I was worried about her. I have been so concerned about her mental state. And when I opened the door, I found him standing over her with a belt in his hand. He was hitting her. I tried to stop him. I tried to pull him away. I struggled to sit up. That is not what happened. She is lying. She is the one who has been beating me. She did it yesterday and the day before. I have recordings. Please stay calm." An officer put a hand on my shoulder. "We have a witness statement. We are taking Mr. Harper into custody." Victoria caught my eye behind the officers' backs. For just a moment, the tears vanished. Her face became a mask of cold triumph. Then the tears returned, as if a switch had been flipped. She had orchestrated this entire thing. She had beaten me and blamed Jonathan. With him in prison for assault, Victoria would have unlimited access to his accounts, his properties, everything. Jonathan was not her accomplice. He was another victim, another mark to be used and discarded. The cameras. My heart stopped. I looked toward the corners of the room where Marcus had installed them. They were gone. The mounts were empty. Marcus rushed in, his face pale with shock and anger. "Someone accessed the security system remotely," he said. "The cameras were disabled and removed about 20 minutes ago. I do not know how they got the access codes. I do not know how they knew exactly where to look." Victoria, still crying, addressed the police. "I have been so scared of him. Jonathan has a terrible temper. I tried to warn Madeline about him, but she would not listen. I think he has been hurting her for weeks, but she was too afraid to say anything. I think he threatened her. I think he told her no one would believe her. I realized the full scope of what was happening. She was framing Jonathan. She was eliminating both of us at once. With Jonathan in prison for assault, she would have complete control of his business, his accounts, his properties. His own lawyer was working for her. She would drain everything dry and disappear. "She is lying," I shouted, my voice breaking. "She is the one who beat me. She did it with a belt. She threatened to kill my baby. She has done this before in Chicago to another pregnant woman." Victoria stroked my hair gently, mockingly, while the officers watched. "Shh," she murmured. "It is okay. You are safe now. He cannot hurt you anymore. The doctors were right about your mental state. You are confused. You are traumatized. You need help." Then she leaned close and whispered so only I could hear. "Who do they believe now? The mistress who called 911 to save you? Or the crazy pregnant woman with a history of stress-induced complications? Check and mate, Madeline." 3 days passed. Jonathan was in jail, unable to make bail because Victoria, as his business partner, had frozen his accounts to protect company assets. His lawyer was one Victoria had recommended months ago, a man who was working for her, not for him. Every legal motion his lawyer filed seemed designed to fail. The police considered the case closed. The victim had been rescued. The abuser was in custody. Victoria was the hero who had saved the day. The forged prenup still existed. Victoria had begun assisting with Jonathan's business affairs, citing the need to protect the company during this difficult time. Millions were being quietly transferred to offshore accounts. By the time anyone noticed, she would be long gone. I lay in my hospital bed alone and defeated. My father sat beside me, holding my hand. He looked older than I had ever seen him, the lines in his face deeper, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion and guilt. "I failed you," he said quietly. "The cameras. I should have anticipated she would have someone on the inside. I should have used more redundant systems. I should have. It is not your fault. I am your father. Protecting you is literally my only job. It is the only thing I am supposed to do well." Silence stretched between us, heavy with despair. "What do we do now?" I asked. "I do not know." It was the first time in my life I had heard my father say those words. He had always had a plan, a backup, a way forward. He had always been the one who knew what to do when everyone else was lost. "Maybe I should just sign the papers," I whispered. "Take whatever she offers and disappear. Start over somewhere else with a new name. At least the baby would be safe." Is that what you want? I want this to be over. I want to stop fighting. I want to stop being afraid. My father was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly, his voice heavy with memory. When your mother left, I wanted to fall apart. You were 6 years old, Maddie. You kept asking where mommy went. You kept asking when she was coming back. And I did not have an answer. I did not have anything except the note she left, telling me she needed to find herself. He paused, his eyes distant. I had two choices, collapse or adapt, and I chose to collapse. For about 3 days, I was completely useless. I sat in our bedroom and stared at the wall and felt sorry for myself. I did not eat. I barely slept. I let you fend for yourself because I was too broken to care. I did not remember this. I did not remember my father ever being weak. And then, on the fourth day, you came into the bedroom. You were carrying a plate with a peanut butter sandwich you had made yourself. The bread was crooked. There was more peanut butter on your hands than on the bread. And you said, Daddy, I made you lunch because you forgot to eat. His voice cracked. That is when I realized I did not have the luxury of collapse, because someone was counting on me. Someone needed me to be strong, even when I was not. Even when I felt like I was falling apart. I had to get up. I had to keep moving. I had to be the father you deserved. He looked at my belly. That is still true. Except now there are two of you. You and this little girl who is fighting just as hard as her mother is. I do not feel strong, I admitted. I feel broken. I feel like they have already won. You do not have to feel strong. You just have to keep fighting. Strength is not a feeling. It is an action. It is getting up when everything in you wants to stay down. It is moving forward when you cannot see the path. He squeezed my hand. Now, let us think. Forget what we cannot do. Forget the exits that are closed. What can we do? What is still possible? I do not know. Yes, you do. Come on, soldier. Battle analysis. What does the enemy want? Slowly, reluctantly, my mind started working again. Money. Victoria wants money. Good. What is she doing to get it? Framing Jonathan. With him in prison, she has access to everything. She is his business partner. She controls the accounts now. What is her weakness? I thought about it. She is confident, overconfident. She thinks she has won. She stopped being careful because she believes no one can touch her. What does overconfidence lead to? Mistakes, carelessness. And what do careless people do? They talk, they brag, they let their guard down. A spark ignited behind my eyes. There is my girl, my father said. I thought about what Emily Ross had told me. The system fails women every day. You have to be your own first responder. If the system would not save me, I would save myself. I would build my own case. I would gather my own evidence. I would create my own justice. And I would start with someone Victoria thought she had already silenced. The first person I needed to find was Thomas Brennan, Jonathan's former accountant. Victoria had fired him 6 months ago, claiming he was incompetent. But Diane had done some digging and discovered that Thomas had tried to report irregularities in the company finances before he was terminated. He had been sitting on evidence ever since, too afraid to come forward. Diane tracked him down and convinced him to visit me at the hospital. He came reluctantly, a nervous man in his 40s with thinning hair and eyes that never stopped moving. You do not understand, he said, sitting in the chair beside my bed like he might bolt at any moment. She has people everywhere. Police, lawyers, judges. I saw what happened to the last person who tried to cross her. He ended up in prison on fabricated charges. I come forward and the same thing happens to me. What if I told you I could guarantee you immunity? I said. What if I told you we could take her down in a way she would never see coming? How? How is that possible? She has won. She has everything locked down. Because I am the one person she thinks is already beaten. Thomas looked at me, confusion written across his face. Think about it, I continued. She is not watching me. Why would she? I am the crazy pregnant woman in the hospital bed. I am the victim she has already neutralized. She is watching Jonathan's lawyers. She is watching the police investigation. She is watching my father's security company. But me, I am furniture. I am nothing. His eyes widened slightly. Understanding began to dawn. She got confident, Thomas said slowly. She stopped being careful because she thinks it is over. Exactly. And confident people make mistakes. They talk when they should stay silent. They leave doors unlocked that should be secured. They stop covering their tracks because they believe no one is looking. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a flash drive. 2 years of financial records, he said. Every fraudulent transfer, every offshore account, every shell company she used to hide the money. I kept copies because I knew someday she would turn on everyone. I just never thought I would have the chance to use them. I took the drive like it was made of gold. The next step was harder. I needed to contact Jonathan in jail. He was a man who had watched me be beaten and done nothing. A man who had believed every lie Victoria told him. A man who had tried to take my baby and have me committed. But he was also a victim, and victims sometimes became witnesses. The meeting happened in a sterile visiting room, separated by thick glass. Jonathan wore an orange jumpsuit. His hair was unwashed. His face was haggard with exhaustion and disbelief. "Why are you here?" he asked. "To gloat? To tell me I got what I deserved?" "To tell you the truth. And then you can decide what you want to do with it." I laid it out piece by piece. "Victoria lied about the paternity. DNA tests will prove the baby is yours. She has done this before. In Chicago, 6 years ago. Another married man, another pregnant wife, another stolen fortune. She is transferring your assets right now while you sit in here. Your lawyer works for her, not you. The witness statement she gave the police is fabricated. She beat me and framed you for it." Jonathan listened, his face cycling through emotions: denial, confusion, anger, devastation, recognition. "I believed her," he said quietly. "Everything she told me about you, about the baby, about our marriage. I believed all of it. I wanted to believe it. It was easier than admitting I was unhappy. It was easier than facing the problems we actually had. I know. Why are you helping me? After everything I did to you? After standing there while she hurt you?" "I am not helping you," I said flatly. "I am protecting my daughter. She deserves better than having her father in prison for something he did not do while a con artist steals her inheritance. This is not about you, Jonathan. This is about her." He was silent for a long time. "What do you need?" "Access codes, passwords, everything Victoria does not know you have. Your company's backup systems. The records she does not know exist, he provided them. His father, years ago, had insisted on maintaining separate backup servers that only family members knew about. Victoria had no idea they existed. "I will never forgive you for what you did," I told him before I left. Standing there, watching, doing nothing. "I will carry that with me for the rest of my life, but I will not let her win. Not because you deserve better, because my daughter does." Over the following days, I coordinated everything from my hospital bed. My father handled security, hiring private investigators and experts who could not be bribed or intimidated. Diane managed the medical documentation, ensuring every record was preserved in multiple locations. Marcus kept watch, screening every visitor. Thomas Brennan compiled the financial evidence: $2.3 million embezzled through shell companies. Wire transfers to offshore accounts in the Caymans and Switzerland. The same pattern he had seen before Victoria fired him, now accelerating as she sensed victory. We tracked down the Chicago case files. Richard Whitmore, still in prison, agreed to provide a statement. His wife had died 2 years after losing their baby, never recovering from the depression that consumed her. Victoria had destroyed them both and walked away clean. We found the notary who had witnessed the forged prenup. Under pressure, she admitted that Victoria had paid her $10,000 to backdate the document and swear it was legitimate. We compiled medical documentation of my injuries, photographs, timestamps, witness statements from Emily Ross and other nurses who had seen the marks on my arms. We built a case so comprehensive, so airtight, that not even Victoria's connections could poke holes in it. I learned something lying in that hospital bed. The system does not save you. People in power do not swoop in and fix everything just because you are right. Sometimes you have to save yourself. So if you are in a situation like mine, if you are trapped and scared and everyone tells you to just give up, remember this: build your evidence, document everything. Find one person you can trust, then find another. Do not let them see you coming, and never assume you are too weak to fight back. Weakness is a disguise. Sometimes it is the most powerful weapon you have. 1 week after the cameras were destroyed, I sent Victoria a message. I used Jonathan's lawyer, the one who worked for her, as the messenger. I wanted her to feel in control. I wanted her to believe she had won completely. The message was simple. I was ready to sign the papers. I had given up. I just wanted one final conversation, face to face, to understand why she had done what she did. Closure. Victoria could not resist. She arrived at the hospital the next afternoon, immaculately dressed in a white designer suit that probably cost more than most people earn in a month. Confidence radiated from every pore. She had already transferred most of Jonathan's money. The divorce papers would finalize everything. She had won, or so she thought. "I have to admit," she said, settling into the chair beside my bed, "you lasted longer than I expected. Most women in your position break much faster. You have a resilient streak. I respect that in a distant kind of way. I am tired, Victoria. I just want this to be over." "Smart girl." She smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Sign the papers. Take the settlement we are offering. Disappear quietly. Start over somewhere else with a new name. And maybe I will let you see the baby once a year. Supervised visits. I think that is more than generous, considering." "Before I sign anything," I said slowly, "I want to understand something." "What? You never loved him, did you?" "Jonathan? He was never anything to you," Victoria laughed. The sound was light and musical and utterly devoid of warmth. "Love? Madeline, darling, love is for people who cannot afford better options. Jonathan was a wallet with a pulse, handsome enough for photos, wealthy enough to be worth my time, stupid enough to believe anything I told him." She leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed. "Men are so predictable," she continued. "Whisper in their ear that their wife is cheating. Plant a seed of doubt about whether the baby is really theirs. Watch them turn against the woman they promised to love forever. Jonathan was actually one of the easier ones. Some men require more convincing. And the money? Mama, I asked the 2.3 million you have been moving?" Victoria froze. The smile faded from her face. "Did you think I was just lying here feeling sorry for myself?" I said. "I have been building a case for 2 weeks. Every account, every transfer, every shell company in the Caymans, every wire to your accounts in Switzerland. You are bluffing." "Am I? I know about Chicago, Victoria. About Richard Whitmore. About his pregnant wife who had a stress-induced miscarriage right before you disappeared with $1.8 million. Her face went white. "That is your pattern, is it not? Find a wealthy married man, seduce him, isolate him from his wife, destroy the wife emotionally, physically, whatever it takes. Frame the husband for your crimes. Then vanish with the money while everyone else burns. You cannot prove any of this. I do not have to prove it. Thomas Brennan already did." The door opened. My father stepped into the room. Behind him came Detective Carol Hayes, 2 FBI agents in dark suits, Marcus Webb and Thomas Brennan, holding a thick stack of folders. "You see, Victoria," I said, "you were right about one thing. Nobody believed the crazy pregnant woman in the hospital bed. But they believe bank records. They believe wire transfers. They believe the accountant who documented every crime you committed for 2 years. Victoria lunged toward me, her face twisted with rage. Marcus intercepted her, pinning her arms behind her back with practiced efficiency. "You cannot do this," Victoria screamed. "I will say she attacked me. I will say she is delusional. I have lawyers. I have connections. I have—" Detective Hayes stepped forward. "You are under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, assault, filing false police reports, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Those are just the federal charges. The state of Illinois would like to discuss what happened in Chicago. And Richard Whitmore's lawyers have some questions about the testimony you gave at his trial." As agents handcuffed Victoria, she continued screaming, "This is not over. I have friends in high places. I have dirt on people you would not believe. I will make calls. I will—" "So did Richard Whitmore," I said calmly. "Now he is in prison and his wife is dead because of you." My father stepped forward, holding a tablet. "One more thing. The cameras in this room, the ones you had your contact disable and remove. Victoria went still. I am retired military, Ms. Crane. Did you really think I would install security cameras with only one backup? Everything uploaded to a secure cloud server in real time. A server you did not know about. We have footage of you beating my daughter. We have footage of Jonathan standing there doing nothing. We have footage of you planting the belt on him when you framed him. He showed her the screen. Crystal clear video. Time-stamped. Authenticated. You thought you erased everything, my father said. You erased nothing. I just needed you confident enough to confess. Victoria's face crumbled. For the first time since I had met her, she looked exactly like what she was. A predator who had finally been caught. Get her out of here, Detective Hayes said. They dragged Victoria toward the door. She twisted back, fixing me with a look of pure hatred. You think you have won? She spat. You are still just a broken woman in a hospital bed. Your marriage is ruined. Your husband is a fool. Your daughter will grow up with a father in therapy and a mother who cannot forget the worst thing that ever happened to her. You will never be the same. Maybe not, I said, but my daughter will grow up knowing her mother fought back. What will your legacy be, Victoria? A prison cell, a case file, a cautionary tale about what happens to predators who underestimate their prey. She had no answer. The door closed behind her. The room was quiet. I sat back against my pillows, exhausted but alive. The fetal monitor beeped steadily beside me. Calm, strong, safe. Diane checked my vitals, her hands gentle and sure. Your blood pressure is actually lower than it has been in 2 weeks, she said. Apparently justice is good for the heart. Who knew? My father sat beside me, his hand covering mine. I am proud of you, soldier. I learned from the best. The door opened again, and officers escorted Jonathan into the room. The charges against him were being dropped. He was a victim of Victoria's scheme too, manipulated and framed. But he was not innocent. He believed the lies. He stood by while I was beaten. He tried to take my baby. He tried to have me committed. He stood at the foot of my bed, unable to meet my eyes. I do not know what to say, he muttered. Then do not say anything. I was blind. He swallowed hard. Everything Victoria told me. About you, about the baby, about our marriage. I wanted to believe it. It was easier than admitting I was unhappy. It was easier than looking at myself. You accused me of cheating. You said our baby was not yours. You watched her beat me with a belt and did nothing to stop it. I know. I want a divorce, I said flatly. A real one, with everything I am legally entitled to, which now that the prenup has been exposed as a forgery, is half of everything you have. I will not fight you on that. And custody, full custody. You will have supervised visitation rights if and when you complete therapy and prove you are capable of being a safe parent, which I doubt you are. But that is for you to prove, not for me to assume. The baby is mine, I said firmly. DNA confirms she is yours biologically. But biology is not parenthood. You do not get to be her father just because you contributed genetic material. You want to be part of her life? Earn it. Prove you have changed. Prove you have learned something from this disaster. And know that I will be watching every single step. Jonathan nodded slowly. There were tears in his eyes. Maybe genuine, maybe not. I no longer cared enough to analyze his emotions. I am sorry, he said. I know that does not mean anything. I know words cannot undo what happened. But I am sorry. You are right. It does not mean anything. Sorry is just a sound people make when they want to feel better about themselves. Actions are what matter. And your actions told me exactly who you are. I did not cry. I did not scream. I simply took back everything that had almost been stolen from me. Now get out. I am tired. He left. My father remained beside me, his presence steady and warm. That was hard. Hard, he said. Easier than I thought, actually. There was a time when I would have begged him to stay, when I would have accepted his apology and tried to make things work, when I would have blamed myself for not being enough. And now I know better. Now I know that I was always enough. He was the one who was broken. He smiled slightly. Proud of you, Maddie. Thanks for not saying I told you so. I am saving that for the memoir. Despite everything, I laughed. It felt strange laughing after everything that had happened, but it also felt right. It felt like breaking through the surface of deep water after being held under for too long. What happens now? I asked. Now you rest, you heal, you have that baby, and then you build your new life. A new life. The words felt strange and wonderful, like stepping through a door into a room I had not known existed. I had entered this hospital broken and afraid. I would leave it stronger than I had ever been. 2 months later, I stood in the doorway of my new home, a cottage with a garden in a quiet neighborhood where I could hear birds singing in the morning. It was smaller than the house I had shared with Jonathan, but it was mine. Every inch of it, every choice about how to fill it, every decision about how to live within its walls. In my arms, I held my daughter, Clara Rose Harper, 8 pounds, 3 ounces, 10 perfect fingers, 10 perfect toes, my eyes, my father's stubbornness, and a future that belonged entirely to her. She had been born 3 weeks after Victoria's arrest, in a delivery room filled with people who loved us. Diane had delivered her. My father had held my hand. Emily Ross had been there, crying happy tears, telling me that not all stories end in tragedy. Clara came into the world screaming, her lungs strong and healthy, her heart beating steady and sure. When they placed her in my arms for the first time, I understood something I had never fully grasped before. This is what I was fighting for, not to win, not to defeat Victoria or prove Jonathan wrong, but for this moment, this tiny life, this chance to be someone's mother, someone's safe place, someone's home. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks earlier. I received half of Jonathan's legitimate assets after the money Victoria had stolen was recovered. The house was sold. The proceeds were mine. Jonathan paid child support, as ordered by the court. He had supervised visitation twice a month, but he rarely showed up. The few times he did appear, he seemed lost, uncertain how to interact with the daughter he had almost lost the right to know. Some people change. Some people learn from their worst moments and become better. Jonathan was not one of those people. Or maybe he would be someday, years from now. But I would not wait around to find out. My daughter deserved better than a father who might eventually learn how to love her. Victoria Crane was in federal prison. Her trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found her guilty on all counts. She received 18 years. The judge called her crimes calculated and predatory. He said she had deliberately targeted vulnerable people and destroyed their lives for profit. He said she showed no remorse and remained a danger to society. The Chicago case was reopened. More charges were filed. More victims came forward. By the time all the sentences were added together, Victoria would be an old woman before she saw freedom again. Detective Carol Hayes had apologized personally. She came to my hospital room after Victoria's arrest and sat beside my bed with her head bowed. "I failed you," she said. "I should have believed you. I should have looked harder at the evidence. I should have trusted my instincts instead of my assumptions." I accepted her apology. She had been wrong, but she was trying to be better. That counted for something. She now volunteered her time training other officers on how to recognize domestic abuse, how to listen to victims, how to look past their assumptions and see the truth. Diane was Clara's godmother. She came by every week with gifts and stories and unsolicited medical advice that I pretended to be annoyed by. Marcus Webb sent stuffed animals in tiny military uniforms. Each one came with a card that said, "Reporting for duty." Emily Ross had been promoted to charge nurse. She told me that my case had changed the way she approached patients. She looked harder now. She listened more carefully. She never assumed. My father came by every Sunday for dinner. He held Clara like she was made of glass and told her stories about her grandmother, the mother I barely remembered, the woman who had walked away all those years ago. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find my father on the porch holding a gift-wrapped box. "You did not have to bring anything," I said. "It is not from me." His voice was careful. "It is from your mother." I froze. "What?" She reached out. Through a lawyer, she saw the news coverage, the trial. She wants to reconnect. He handed me the box and an envelope. The handwriting on the envelope was unfamiliar and achingly recognizable at the same time. "I told her it was your decision, not mine," my father said. "I will not tell you what to do, but I will say this. You are not the same woman you were 6 months ago. Whatever you decide, You will handle it." He kissed my forehead and left. I stood in the doorway holding the box, staring at my mother's handwriting for the first time in 26 years. The woman who had walked out when I was 6 years old. The woman who had missed my childhood, my graduation, my wedding, the birth of my daughter. I closed the door, set the box on the table, walked back to the rocking chair where Clara was sleeping peacefully. I did not open it. Not today. Maybe not ever. But the choice was mine now. That was what mattered. I used to think strength meant never breaking. I was wrong. I broke. I broke in a hospital bed while a woman beat me and my husband watched. I broke when no one believed me. I broke when every exit closed. I broke when hope seemed like a cruel joke someone was playing on me. But here is what I learned. Breaking is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the crack where light gets in. It is the moment when everything falls away and only what is real remains. It is the space where you discover what you are truly made of. I stood up. Not because I was not scared. I was terrified. Not because I had power. I had nothing. I stood up because my daughter needed me to. Because I needed me to. Because lying down and giving up was not something I could live with. If you are listening to this and you are in that dark place, if someone is hurting you and telling you it is your fault, if the system has failed you, if everyone says to just give up, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you know, stronger than anyone has ever given you credit for, stronger than you give yourself credit for. Document everything. Find one person you trust. Build your case even when no one is watching. And never let them steal your voice, because at the end of the day, the only person who gets to decide your story is you. Hold on to that. I looked down at Clara, sleeping peacefully in my arms, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, new chances to grow. But tonight, in this moment, there was only peace. My story was not over. It was just beginning, and this time I would be the one to write it. And that is where Madeline's story ends, or maybe where it truly begins. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you have done in her situation? Would you have trusted the system, or would you have built your own trap? Your comments help me understand what stories matter most to you. And if this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, hit that like button. It only takes a second, but it means the world to this channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Someone who needs to know they are not alone. And if you are new here, welcome to the family. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Until next time, stay strong. Your story is not over yet.